specific story that it goes with it probably would have helped the context, which is as I was growing up, my mother, although she had 2 degrees, did not work. She stayed home with the kids, raised a family, took care of the house. I had 2 brothers who had 3 children. My father worked multiple jobs to keep us supported, but her job was really taking care of the home. And my chores were, you know, the usual good Asian daughter. You know, I was taught to clean the house, and so one of the things that I had to do on Saturday mornings was clean the baseboards, which nobody does that anymore. But after I was married and had my own home and my mom was coming to visit, I spent 2 days cleaning the baseboards in my house because I knew she was going to come and want to know what my baseboards were clean. So you know, at the time I was working, I think I was going to night school to get my MBA. Didn't have my first job yet, but I might have been expecting, I can't remember. A lot was going on, and I spent 2 days cleaning my baseboards. My mother actually is the one that said this to me because she came to the house, she was very excited to see us, see our new home, very proud of all the things that we'd accomplished, and said nothing about my baseboards. So I finally said to her, you know, Mom, you didn't say anything about how clean my house was in the baseboards, and I worked really hard to make sure that the baseboards were cleaned, and you know, I know how you are about that. And she looked at me and she said, why did you waste your time doing that? And I thought, this is why I need therapy, because you know, this is how I was raised. And so she said to me, she said, you know what, Melissa, she said, I don't expect you to spend your time doing that. As a stay-at-home mom and housewife and homemaker, that was the contribution that I gave to the family. I kept the home clean. I felt it was important to make sure everything was clean. And I didn't have anything else to do because we're at school, so I did the baseboards, and I thought that was something you should learn how to do. I don't expect you to do that. That in your list of things that you should accomplish and get done, you should focus on the things that are important to your life and your career, whether it's family, whether it's getting ahead at work, whether it's getting your education at night, whether it's doing those things. Don't try to do all these things just because other people have told you to do them. At some point, you need to decide what those priorities are. So my interpretation of the lower the standards thing was that I was trying to do everything all the time. And I was trying to maintain that high standard of being able to have my baseboards clean, getting everything done on time, you know, getting my schoolwork done at night and my work done. And so I use that as sort of a little comedy, and to say that, you know, I think sometimes, particularly, you know, if you're type A, and many of us in the Asian world are, because we're raised to be such perfectionists, that sometimes it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to let things go. And I'm sure many of you came through this with your families. You bring home the 98 on the big test, and the dad says, what happened? Right?
I do, actually. I want to support what Lisa said. I already told you how I cringed when she was talking about all those stereotypes, but I absolutely agree with you. As a widely classified Asian American community, we do need to take some of that pressure off our kids, for one thing. And it was my son, actually. Remember I said I learned from everybody. It was my son, when he was a college student, we went to a seminar for high school and college students, and he just happened to be in the audience. And he heard me talk about the stereotypes in a positive way of Asian Americans being extremely good at math and things like that. And on the drive home, he said, you know what, you should reconsider that. You shouldn't be saying that. You're putting incredible pressure on people who are, he's a whiz, by the way. He's an absolute math whiz. So he wasn't talking about himself. He was talking about other people who weren't. He says, you need to tone that down. And he's absolutely right. I mean, I learned from him when he was a college student. I have not used that thing again. We don't put enough value on just happiness, on having a good time, and even letting our hair down a little bit. And I think that I agree with you, Lisa.
Some of it's a little self-serving because I have an alternate career, as my family calls it. It doesn't fit into the Holy Trinity. But I think as an HR professional and as someone who is actively involved in helping to recruit for a multi-billion-dollar multinational company, one of the challenges we have with diversity is finding qualified talent of diverse backgrounds to fill our positions. Because we have marketing, we have sales, we have creative, we have production, we have a lot of careers that traditionally Asians do not go into. And I would just encourage you and your children and your peers and colleagues to consider careers in other areas, because there is a plethora of opportunities. Jeannie and I were just talking about the emergence of new technology, Google TV and iPads, and there's so much out there that the technology is moving forward, and we're having a very hard time finding qualified talent in this area, because it is a space that is typically doesn't fall into that trinity of things that we're used to. So some of it is just trying to encourage people to think more broadly. Sales is another one. I mean, I think there's wonderful careers to be had in sales, but you find very, very few Asians that make that a career choice.
Okay. Anybody else? Sorry.